I'm an Iowa City native, born and raised in the heart of Hawkeye country. When I turned 18, I knew that I wanted to attend the University of Iowa, the school that was practically synonymous with partying. As a freshman, I quickly found myself immersed in the college party scene. Frat parties, house parties, tailgates, I was there for all of it. But one night in particular stands out in my memory as the creepiest experience of my college years. It was a Friday night, and my friends and I had decided to hit up a party at one of the frats. The frat house was dimly lit, and the air was thick with the scent of sweat and booze. The music was so loud that we could barely hear each other speak. At first, I thought it was just a typical college party, people drinking, dancing, and having a good time. But as the night went on, things started to take a turn for the sinister. I saw people snorting lines of cocaine off of the kitchen counter, and others injecting themselves with needles. There were people passed out on the floor, their bodies limp and lifeless, while others stumbled around in a drug-fueled haze. It was like something out of a horror movie, and I couldn't help but feel like I had stumbled into the wrong place. As we made our way through the crowded house, I noticed several guys who seemed to be lurking around, watching people. They didn't seem to be there to party, they were just standing there, silently observing. At first, I tried to ignore them. Maybe they were just introverted, I thought. But as the night wore on, their behavior became more and more unsettling. They would follow groups of girls around, keeping a close eye on them. I couldn't shake the feeling that they were up to something. Eventually, my friends and I decided to leave the party. But as I tried to make my way towards the door following them, I felt a hand grabbing my arm. "Where do you think you're going?" a voice slurred in my ear. I turned to see a tall, muscular guy staring down at me, his eyes bloodshot and glazed over. I was just leaving," I stuttered, trying to pull away from him. But he held me in place, his grip tightening around my arm. "Don't be like that," he said with a grin. "Stay and have some fun." I tried to pull away again, but he only held me tighter. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as I looked around the room, searching for a way out. But every exit was blocked by a sea of bodies, and I was trapped. Suddenly, the music stopped, and everyone turned to face the front of the room. A hush fell over the crowd as a figure stepped forward, a man with a sinister smile and a gleam in his eye. "Welcome to the party," he said, his voice echoing through the silent room. "I'm glad you could all make it." There was something about his tone that made my skin crawl, and I couldn't help but feel like I was in danger. But before I could make a move, he gestured towards the back of the room, and a group of people stepped forward, each one holding a large syringe filled with a clear liquid. "This is the main event," he said with a grin. "Who's ready to party?" The room erupted into cheers as people stepped forward to receive their injections. I could see the desperation in their eyes, the need for something, anything, to numb the pain and the fear that they were feeling. But I knew that I couldn't stay. I had to get out of there before it was too late. "What do you want?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. He didn't answer. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I could feel my palms getting sweaty. Suddenly, my phone rang. It was one of my friends, wondering where I was. I quickly answered, hoping that the sound of my voice would scare the guy off. To my relief, it worked. I managed to break free from the man's grasp and run towards the door. I could hear him shouting after me, but I didn't stop until I was outside. Breathless and relieved, I told my friend on the phone what had just happened. She immediately offered to come get me, and I gratefully accepted. I didn't want to walk home alone after that scary experience. As I waited for my friend to arrive, I couldn't help but replay the events of the night in my mind. Who were those guys at the party, and what were they up to? I was lost in thought when my friend's car pulled up. I quickly hopped in, glad to be leaving the scene of the creepy frat party. As we drove away, I realized that I hadn't even had that much to drink. I had been sober enough to sense that something wasn't right. From that night on, I was much more cautious about the parties I attended. I made sure to only go to events where I knew the hosts or trusted the people in attendance. It serves as a reminder to me that partying can be fun, but it's important to always be aware of your surroundings and stay safe. I also made sure to always have a friend with me, so I wouldn't have to walk home alone again. I had always known that the University of Iowa was a party school, but I had never imagined anything like this. The reality was much darker, much more sinister, than I had ever thought possible. This happened when I was in college in Wisconsin. I was eager to meet new people, learn new things, and experience all that campus life had to offer. As I settled into my new college dorm room, I couldn't help but feel a little anxious. I had never lived away from home before, and the thought of sharing such a small space with someone else made me uneasy. To make matters worse, I soon learned that the room next to ours was occupied by two strangers, one of whom was significantly older than the rest of us. I first met the 26-year-old, whose name was Mike, when I was unloading my belongings from the car. He was sitting on the front steps of the dorm building, smoking a cigarette and scrolling through his phone. At first, I assumed he was a resident advisor or some kind of authority figure, but when he introduced himself as my neighbor, I was taken aback. I couldn't help but wonder why a 26-year-old man would want to live in a dorm room with a group of 18 and 19-year-olds. Was he some kind of creep or weirdo? Or was there a more innocent explanation? Despite my reservations, Mike seemed friendly enough. He offered to help me carry my boxes up to my room, and we chatted about our hometowns and interests along the way. As we said our goodbyes, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something off about him, but I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. Over the next few weeks, I settled into a routine with my roommates. My direct roommate, Joe, was easygoing and fun to be around, and the other two in the room over, Jake and Mike, were mostly quiet and kept to themselves. Still, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease whenever I saw Mike around the dorm building. It wasn't until a few weeks into the semester that things started to take a turn for the worse. One night, while hanging out in Joe and my room, Jake confided in me that he had witnessed Mike storing cocaine in the ceiling of our suite. I was shocked and didn't know what to do. As it turned out, Mike wasn't a traditional college student. He had actually dropped out of college years ago, but had recently decided to come back to school to finish his degree. But it didn't end there. Jake also told me that he had been in a car with Mike and another guy, and that Mike had pulled out a gun while drunk and started waving it around. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Who was this guy that we were living with? We decided to do some research and found out that he had been facing drug charges following a 2-year police investigation. The police had found drugs, weapons, and a flamethrower in a residence where he and his friend had been staying. We were shocked and couldn't believe that our school would let someone like this stay on campus, let alone with 18 and 19-year-olds. I knew that I had to do something. I didn't feel safe living in the same suite as someone with such a dangerous past. I talked to Joe, and we decided to report the situation to campus security. After our report, the mic was removed from our suite, and we were given the option to move to a different dorm. We decided to take the offer and move to a new dorm. Although it was inconvenient, we felt safer knowing that we weren't living with someone with such a dangerous past. The experience changed my perspective on campus safety. I realized that it's important to be aware of your surroundings and the people you live with. It also taught me the importance of speaking up when something doesn't feel right. Although my college experience didn't start out the way I had hoped, I learned valuable lessons and made the decision that was best for my safety and well-being. It was my freshman year at NC State. I was excited to start my college experience, but also a bit nervous about living in a dorm with so many other students. The all-female dorm had a community bathroom and shower room, which added another layer of uncertainty for me. I had never shared a bathroom with so many people before, and the thought of it made me a bit anxious. On move-in day, I lugged my bags up to the third floor and nervously walked down the hall to my room. As I entered, I was greeted by my new roommate, Emily. We introduced ourselves and began unpacking our belongings, both of us feeling a bit apprehensive about what the next few months would bring. As the days went by, I started to settle into my new routine. I attended classes, made new friends, and began to feel more comfortable living in the dorm. The community bathroom and shower room were not as bad as I had anticipated. I quickly learned the best times to use them when they were less crowded, and I even made a few friends in the process. Eventually, I started hearing strange rumors about the bathroom. Some of my classmates claimed to have seen shadows moving around in the middle of the night, and others said they had heard strange noises coming from the showers. At first, I didn't pay much attention to these stories. After all, college students are notorious for their wild imaginations and love for pranks. But then, one night, something strange happened. That night, around midnight, I was getting ready for bed, and as I walked down the dimly lit hallway towards the bathroom, I had an eerie feeling. The air felt tense, and there was an unsettling silence that seemed to fill the air. As I entered the bathroom, I noticed that the atmosphere inside was different than usual. It was colder, and the air seemed to be thick with an ominous presence. I tried to shake off the feeling, thinking it was just my imagination playing tricks on me, but then it happened. The door to the community bathroom suddenly swung open, and I froze. No one was there, but I could hear the sound of running water coming from the shower area. The sinks were gurgling, and the toilets were flushing by themselves. I was frozen in fear, unable to move or speak. All I could do was stand there, staring at the empty bathroom, wondering what was happening. The sound of the water was deafening, and I could feel a sense of dread creeping up inside of me. As the minutes passed, the bathroom finally fell silent, and the door slowly creaked shut on its own. I ran back to my room, not daring to look back, afraid that whatever had caused the strange occurrences in the bathroom might be following me. The next day, I tried to rationalize what had happened, thinking that maybe it was just a plumbing issue or a malfunctioning automatic sensor. But deep down, I knew that it was something unnatural. I tried to avoid using the community bathroom at night, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. As the weeks passed, the strange occurrences in the bathroom became more frequent. Sometimes, the faucets would turn on by themselves, and other times, the showers would start running, even though no one was in the bathroom. And then, things got even worse. One day, as I was getting ready for class, I felt a cold breath on the back of my neck. I spun around, but there was no one there. I realized then that I couldn't ignore this any longer. At first, I tried to ignore these occurrences, but they became more frequent and intense as the semester progressed. I was constantly on edge and afraid to use the bathroom at night. As the semester came to a close, I couldn't help but feel relieved that I would no longer have to deal with the haunted bathroom. I packed up my belongings and said goodbye to my roommates and friends, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. Although my time at NC State had been challenging and filled with horror experiences, I was grateful for the lessons I had learned. I had learned to be more aware of my surroundings and to trust my instincts. And as I left NC State, I knew that I would never forget my haunted community bathroom experience, and it would always serve as a reminder to be mindful of the unknown.